Friends, this session is on innovation and research on technology integrated education. That's why I thought that I will intervene. That otherwise Madhu was wonderfully telling her things. I should tell you that the chairperson over here is Professor Madhu Parhar. Just to tell you that what Professor Madhu was trying to tell was the presence of technology in learning environment, whether it is school, university, or any professional training course, does not necessarily entail a direct change in pedagogical vision or the teaching practices. This we will agree. The mere placing of computers, video proctoring, IWB in the classroom does not mark the ultimate attainment of the teaching innovation. For this reason, I think we do believe it is important to discuss the concept of technology-based pedagogy innovations, especially with respect to research, so that we remain concentrated to the learning theory and clarify the role of technology as far as the teacher and the learning results are concerned. So friends, here in this session, there are three panelists, friends, with Professor Madhu in chair. And they are Dr. Som Naidu, Dr. Indra Koneru, and Professor Amarendra Behera. I will simply say that I will simply just introduce Professor Madhu Parhar, and then I will certainly stop because Madhu knows better than anybody else in this. I mean me only. That's why, just to tell you, friends, Madhu Parhar is Director SEMCA, that is Commonwealth Education Media Center for Asia. She was Professor of Distance Education in Staff Training and Research Institute Distance Education, which we also called as STRIDE in very simple words. She has held many coveted positions in IGNO and other institutions, including Wapswan University in Malaysia. Her specialization is no doubt educational technology and open and distance education, instructional design. And just to tell you that she has contributed many scholarly articles in the research papers in various journals. I will not name those, just sometimes to introduce a good friend is really difficult. So that's the same is the case here also. That's why perhaps Madhu wanted to just skip over that and she may not be introduced, maybe like that. So I will say that she has edited and co-edited several books. I need not, and those books are especially on open and distance education, Indian education development, and since independence. So I will say she has been a consultant to UNESCO on the distance education practices. So I think I should not speak much because Madhu herself has much insight into the this research and distance education system, and she belongs to the STRIDE part. So I will just hand over to Professor Madhu. Kindly take it over, and I will stop over here. Rest she will introduce, and the others panelists, and then certainly we shall be, I should say, happy to discuss with the panelists many things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Malhotra, for this nice introduction. So this panel discussion, this session is on research and innovation in technology integrated education. We have top three experts. Before introducing the three panelists, I just 2, 3, 4 statements on the subject, the research and innovation. So very interesting theme of this session. 2 important points, rather, I don't know if I say 3 important points. A, research, second, innovation, third, technology integrated education. So it will be very interesting to listen to all 3 of the panelists, whether they are talking about research in technology integrated education or innovations, or both these are complementing each other in the technology integrated education. So that's a very, very important point. Lots of research has been done in technology integrated education. So if we talk about the research part of it, several technological innovations have also been done, which has a lot of impact on the educational system at all levels, not only at school level, even at the higher education level, technical education, and so on. So like all of you know, these online courses, education software, social work, networking tools, and many other emerging disruptive technologies, which have really disrupted the traditional classroom environment. I will not say post-pandemic, after pandemic, pre-pandemic, and so on and so forth. But a very important point which I just want to make here is that is there a role of research in innovation? Definitely, all of you will say. Like, for example, in the discipline, science discipline, we are doing research experiments in the lab, which lead to innovations and which has impacted the innovations. With these small statements, I invite our speakers. I'll introduce to each one of them. The structure of this session will be 15 to 20 minutes presentation by each one of them. Then we will have question answers, and towards the end, we will have some concluding remarks. To begin with, I welcome Professor Som Naidu. All of you have seen the souvenir. You know, he is Principal Fellow of Higher Education Academy. That's what it is written in that. But I want to introduce him because that's a very brief and very simple one statement, but I will be very brief because he has a huge CV. Specializes in distance education, online learning, and e-learning. He has been with Swinburne University of Technology in Melbourne, was in Charles Sturt University, Australia. He qualified, graduate in education technology from Concordia University, Montreal, has been awarded with D.Litt in recognition of his contribution in the field of open and flexible distance e-learning from Open University of Sri Lanka. Regarding his publications, NET publications, every week there is new one, or every maybe quarter is new one, so cannot keep a track of the number of publications he has in this field. So I thank Som Naidu and welcome to this panel discussion. Before I request him, I would like to introduce our other two panelists. We have Dr. Indra Koneru with us, 17 years of professional experience. I will not get into her qualifications, but he has worked with various institutions like ICFI, KES Polytechnic, Vijayawada, and so on. Presently, she is Dean and Head of E-Learning Department, ICFI Business School. She is a founder director of Koneru Bhaskara Rao and Hemlata Development Foundation. So if all of you have seen for the last 3 days, she has been here. And I must say that during the afternoon sessions, she has conducted wonderful workshops on open education resources. So she is an expert on open education resources and innovation in technology-enabled learning. I hope I'm not saying anything wrong, because Professor Mukhopadhyay, he's nodding his head like that. Okay.
She conducted the workshop on blended learning by repurposing OER.
Okay.
It's a very innovative kind of an approach she had taken.
Okay. Our third speaker, Professor Amarendra Behera. I hope he is there. Again, I will not say the qualifications, but presently he's a joint director, CIT, NCRT, New Delhi. The point which I want to highlight about his contributions, which is very much related to this panel discussion, that he has contributed a lot on the digital initiatives of Government of India, especially in the school education. So like school broadcasts, Umang, NROER, that is the National Repository of Open Education Resources, developed and launched number of online courses, MOOC on SWAM and SWAM Prabha. He has contributed on PM Vidya. So with these very brief introduction, I request Professor Som Naidu for his presentation.
Well, I also join you welcoming Som. I don't know what time it is there where he's speaking from, because people are dead in the night, early in the morning.
No.
Welcome, Som. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. And thank you, Madhu, for those very kind words, and good to see you all. Thank you, Ramesh, good to see you. You're all my friends. And India is, of course, a very, I've got very passionate experiences. I've been to India several times and worked with many of you on many occasions. So I've got very fond affection of India. And of course, I'm Indian ethnic origin, as you can see. But I was born in the Fiji Islands, even though I've been to India many times, my ancestors come from India. So, for those reasons, I have very fond memories and connections with India. So that being said, I'm delighted to be here and to be speaking with you, and thank you all for giving me the opportunity and for being present at this time. I realize that all of you have been through about three days of conferencing, so you must be tired. So I hope that you can stick around and bear with me and bear with us throughout this session. It's a pleasure to be speaking towards the end of a conference like this, and I've listened to some of the conversations earlier on, and you've covered a lot of ground, some of which I will reflect upon as well. But it gives me an opportunity to take a bigger picture view as opposed to a very technical and instrumental view of education, which is what I'm going to do. So with those introductory remarks, I'm going to just start sharing a couple of slides that I've got here, which will help me be a bit more coherent than speaking without them. So here we go. Let me see if this is going to work well. So introductory remarks. When Professor Mukpadai, asked me to make or to make a contribution to this session, I was thinking, well, what could I offer? And my thoughts went back to an editorial that I wrote for the Distance Education Journal only recently, the last volume for 2021, which is volume 42, issue number 4, in which I gave some thought to kind of research that Madhu was talking about, the kinds of inquiry, the kinds of research that we need to be doing at a time when technology is so much in the picture. And as I said, I was listening to the last set of presenters, from Dubai and from people from India. I mean, it's mind-boggling how much interest there is on technology and the impact that it's having. So I want to make a bit of a comment on I'm getting some feedback from people, so is it okay? Okay, so back to where I was. As I was saying, I'm sorry for the interruptions. I wrote an editorial not long ago in the Distance Education Journal, as many of you know, that I edit, and I began to think quite a bit about the kinds of questions people were asking and writing about. And when I was thinking about what was coming in, what people were doing at a time like this, with so much interest on technology, I started thinking about what is worth investigating and how should we go about investigating. Hence the title of my presentation. But just before I do that, let's just look at what's happened a little bit. I mean, everybody knows what the effect of COVID-19 has been. I mean, we know that the impact has been, of course, indiscriminate across the sector. Everybody has been affected. The best resourced institutions, such as those in Australia and the UK and the US, have been affected just as much as the less resourced, But it is interesting to know that, those that have been less scathed or least scathed by the pandemic are those that have been in the business of open, flexible, and distance learning. And now this is a very critical point. You might want to wonder. In 2019 and 2020, I was serving as Pro Vice-Chancellor of the University of the South Pacific. where my responsibility was open, flexible, and distance education. And it is interesting to note that the University of the South Pacific was really unaffected by COVID-19, largely because we already had a very resilient, open, flexible, and distance education methods. And if you ask to what extent Indira Gandhi National Open University or many other open universities are affected by COVID-19, you'd probably say not very much, because we already had a very resilient education system that was built on the premise of these kinds of disturbances and calamities if they were to occur. But for the other institutions, the most important lesson is this one. It has shown how unprepared and ill-equipped these universities have been for this kind of a disruption. And you need to ask the question. I mean, most of us will have to ask this question. All of us will have to ask this question. How has it been possible for our learning and teaching operations to be compromised so completely? Imagine if you were running a business, you were a manager or you're a director of a company, if you had to completely shut down your operations one day, whatever were you making, whether it was making cars or making bread or printing newspapers, if suddenly something happened, you had to shut down your business, you need to ask the question, why was this possible? How is it possible that I had to stop my printing press, had it been a printing press or a bakery or manufacturing industry? And in particular, with relation to education, why so many educational institutions universally had to shut down? Now, every vice-chancellor, every president ought to be asking that question. Why did they have to shut it down? Why did Cambridge University have to shut their operations down? Why did Stanford have to shut their operations down? Was it necessary? What were they not doing before the COVID-19 pandemic struck? And had they been doing that, they wouldn't have had to shut it down. Why are learners? I mean, this is more important. The third point is more important. Why are learners and teachers so overwhelmed with moving their activities online? I'm asking that question because online learning and distance education is not new. We were familiar with these kinds of things. And the fourth thing is, what does this say about how we've been preparing our learners? And I heard Professor Mukhopadhyay talking a lot about learner agency and teacher agency. These are very important points. What is it that we're not teaching our learners? What is it that we're not teaching our teachers that led us to be in this situation? So these are very difficult questions, and I'm sure you've considered them yourselves. So when I was thinking about and working with the research that was coming in to the Distance Education Journal, some of the observations that I noticed was as follows. Number one, the preliminary assessment of the impacts of COVID-19 seems to be one that is, characterized by chaos. Everybody is panicking, and they're making misguided assumptions and making hasty decisions about learning and teaching. The emergence of terminology like emergency remote teaching. I mean, you would wonder, what the hell is emergency remote teaching? Think about it. Was a term like that necessary when there is decades of experience of distance education around? Why did we not simply adopt distance education as an approach? Poor form of distance education may have been, but there is no need for emergency remote teaching because it is emergency teaching. And emergency teaching could have been distance education in the absence of face-to-face teaching. The fact is that we panicked. We did not go back and look at what could have been done or what is being done, and then suddenly come up with the terminology, yet another terminology called ERT, emergency remote teaching. The large-scale adoption of online distance learning in the wake of COVID-19, has nevertheless attracted the unremarkable question, So everybody is asking now, is online education as effective as campus-based education? And you have been talking about proctoring, all along the last half hour or more. Now, one of the things that occurred to me is that nobody's suggesting that we just change all our examination systems, that they're proctored online. Somebody rightly said so, and I think it was I think it might have been Professor Mukherjee, that we need a mixture of things, and there's a whole bunch of factors that need to be considered. Online proctoring may be good for certain types of examinations, but not all types of examinations. And few people have talked about designing assessments such that there is no possibility of students to cheat. Now, I think Professor Mukherjee was saying the importance of teaching is very important. We should be focusing more on the teacher and less so on what the student was doing, but I'm digressing, but I'll come back to that point. So we are going back to the mistakes that we've made in the past. We're suddenly trying to say, if we suddenly move everything online, then how effective is online education compared to campus-based education? And those of us who've been in distance education have been through this question before. When distance education was becoming robust and widely applied and used, people were asking the same sorts of questions. Is it better than campus-based education? And the answer was, well, it can be. I mean, there is no particular model of online education that is supremely successful, that can be applied equitably throughout the world. There is variations of online education, just as there are variations of campus-based education. So one mode is not necessarily better than the other. There can be a bad form or poor form of one mode and a good form of that mode. So not all campus-based education is great, as you will, I'm sure, agree with me. So the advice for researchers is, what are the questions worth asking? And I want to take that conversation to this point, this final point on that slide, is that a more useful line of inquiry is to look for insights on particular attributes of flexibility and affordances of technology, what technology can do, as opposed to its solution. And I want to stay on this slide a bit longer, because in this slide, there is a framework for those kinds of investigations. And if you do those kinds of investigations, then my premise here, my view is that you are going to build a resilient education system that will not fall apart the next time a pandemic strikes, that cannot fall apart when any calamity, be it hurricane or a cyclone or an earthquake, because it will be flexible enough to be able to weather those kinds of storms, if I can put it in those kinds of words. Now, there are 8 dimensions of flexibility. I mean, when we talk about flexibility, and many of you will be familiar with it, we are talking about 1 or 2 types. We're talking about flexibility in terms of time, place, and pace. Those are the obvious things, that we talk about, so that, you can study or teach, in your own time, at your own pace, and from your own place, which is what many of us are doing. But to build a more resilient education system, there is a need to think about other kinds of flexibility, such that your machinery does not have to shut down, like I was saying. So let me take you through these 8 points. The first one is the design of the learning experience. At the heart of any educational transaction is the design of the learning experience. In a simplest way, when a teacher designs a learning experience, or when an education organization designs a learning experience, you might say, well, give a lecture, have a tutorial, set an exam, that's it, it's done. It's the very simplest form of it. But a more complex learning experience could involve a whole bunch of things, project work, problem solving, field work and lab work. And if you design the learning experience in a productive way, then it won't have to shut down. The organizations which dependent mostly on the lecture are the organizations that had to shut their operations down. Think about it. Institutions like University of Melbourne in Australia, Stanford University, and for that matter in the US, Cambridge University, these organizations are so dependent on the campus-based experience, so dependent on the lecturer giving the lecture live in person, that when they were not able to do that, the whole model fell apart. But those institutions which did not depend on the lecture as the delivery platform, as the delivery mode, were successful because people had access to content in different ways. So for example, Indira National Open University or any open university was not dependent on the lecture. So the learning experience was still possible for students to be engaging in. And as part of the learning experience comes the second point, which is the engagement of the learner with the content. Now, those institutions, they're dependent on the learner engaging with the content in a singular mode, just as I'm doing right now. You are engaging with my content by me trying to explain it to you. But if an organization had different ways of the learner to interact with that content, then they would not have to shut down their operations. And the third thing is how the learner interacts with the teacher, learner-teacher engagement. If the only way the learner was interacting with the teacher in the context of a campus and a classroom or a tutorial or a laboratory, and come COVID-19, then you would have had to shut down your operations. So we need to think about different ways of learners interacting with the content, different ways of learners interacting with the teacher, and different ways of learners interacting with learners. And this is where the flexibility things comes in. So what we want is every organization, right from Harvard to Cambridge, to Oxford, to Stanford, to Melbourne, to Sydney, to all the organizations. Every organization needs to think about the design of learning experience that provides opportunities for learners to interact with the content in multiple ways, interact with teachers in different channels, in different modes, interact with learners in different ways. But that's not all. The fifth point is talking about learner engagement with the learning environment. This is about adaptable access. This is about not just using the internet, but using different modes and different technologies, mobile access, Wi-Fi access, as well as physical access when that's necessary. Not everybody wants to or needs to come to the campus. And the sixth one is, this is the important point that you guys have been talking about for the last hour and a half, learner engagement with assessment activities. This is about choices learners have. Now, and that's a very critical point, because as I said earlier on, the devil in the detail is on the design of assessment activities. If you design the assessment activities in such a way that plagiarism and the opportunity to cheat is minimized, then there is no opportunity. There's no possibility for learners to cheat. So we need to be very careful about looking at solutions first, rather than focusing on the problem. The problem with assessment is the design of assessment activities. So much of our assessment activity is designed in such a way that it's easy for people to cheat. And human nature is we're going to cut corners, right? If you give me an opportunity to cheat, I will probably take it if my ethics allow me to do so. Many of us might not, but many of us will. So I think we should be focusing our attention on the design of assessment activities by teachers. Let's educate our teachers. Let's educate our senior managers on how we can design assessment activities and how we can develop the capacities of our teachers to design activities so that there's minimal opportunity to cheat. Now, and the seventh point is learner engagement with feedback. Now, how is feedback given to the learners? In conventional education organizations, feedback is given mostly by way of marks, or by way of comments on assignments submitted. Now, we need to think in so many different ways feedback can be given, and technology is making it even possible for us to give feedback to learners just in time, in real time, in a whole variety of ways. Now, if that were possible, then you would not have to shut down your operations. And then the last point is learner engagement with the institution. Not everybody needs to come to campus. Not everybody wants to come to campus. And this is how the distance education operations have been built, because people who are working full-time at families didn't want to go to the 8 a.m. lecture if they didn't have to. If the lecture can be recorded and given to them and they can listen to it in their own time and multiple times, why do I then need to drive an hour or two to come to listen to a lecture in some room in some city environment? So when we are thinking about educational systems, we need to go beyond thinking about the time, place, and pace independence. We need to think about the variety of ways in which our operations need to become resilient to the kinds of challenges that we have faced through the pandemic. I mean, just think of one final point about this. Think of industries such as the banking industry, for example, or the supermarkets. How much of banking has changed over the years, and the supermarkets have changed so much. We don't have to actually go to the supermarket these days, isn't it? I'm sure this is the case in India. If I can't go to the supermarket, I can actually use technology to actually see what's on the shelves of the supermarket by zeroing in on the detail of what's on the labels of the, select the thing that I want and buy it online, and somebody's going to deliver it to the desktop. I don't go to the bank anymore. The banking industry has adapted in so many ways that I can do everything that I need to do, pay my bills, transfer money and get money online. I don't have to go. The only time I need to go to the bank is when I need to talk to somebody about a loan or something like that. So I think what educational organizations have failed to do is to become resilient, is to look at how our operations, the teaching, learning, administration of teaching and learning operations have become so archaic that when a calamity like COVID-19 struck, we had to close down shop. And this is a huge lesson that every senior manager, and I've been one lately, need to ask themselves the question: why did we have to stop? Why did I have to close my operations? Why was it necessary? In other words, I'm responsible. That so much money has been lost. So many people's jobs have been compromised as a result of our inability to make ourselves more resilient. Now, to come back to the point that Madhu is I'm sure wanting me to address, is this is the kind of thing that research should be focusing on. Research should be focusing on approaches, on the effectiveness and efficiency of various kinds of learner-learner interaction, learner-teacher interaction, learner content engagement, and different kinds of learning experiences design, different kinds of assessment activities, and learner engagement with feedback, for example. Now, if research is focused on those kinds of things, then educational organizations are going to benefit from it, are going to learn from it, and researchers are going to find these kinds of things productive and innovative and fruitful and beneficial to the community as a whole. So I hope I've made some comments that will give us some fruitful thought. But that's the end of my slides and my short expose, Madhu. I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Som. That was a brilliant presentation. We have questions. However, we will take the questions once the other two panelists, they have also presented. Thank you once again. Now I invite Dr. Indra Koneru for her presentation. Indra.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Let me start my presentation. Today, I'm going to reflect on how ready we were during the pandemic. That is, we started, though we were partially prepared, we launched blended learning in 2012. In the initial years, the adoption rate was high because of the leadership at respective campuses. But slowly it got diluted and adoption rate gone down to 20%. It's really pathetic for me because I have been researching on e-learning and how to blend technologies to improve student engagement and improve student learning outcomes and all. COVID-19 educational disruption really provided me an opportunity to strengthen our e-learning ecosystem and to build capacity among our faculty members. Today, I'm going to present and I'm going to reflect on with these questions. How ready was IBS with the needed infrastructure to provide uninterrupted access to almost 7,000 users? So we have 7 IBS campuses. Out of these 6,000 plus our students and 300 plus our faculty members, including non-teaching staff, because it's like a collective effort or collective contribution of teaching and non-teaching staff across 7 IBS campuses. So how did our capacity building programs help our faculty members in redesigning and developing and facilitating blended online learning courses? What's the uniqueness about our academic delivery? How did our faculty design and develop online course content and with engaging activities in 20 days? How were our students prepared for participating in this new environment? And how did our faculty or how do our faculty track student engagement and alert inactive students? And how did IBS provide access to the learning material? Again, this was an important or issue to be addressed across IBS campuses. Why did we embark on creating interactive books by integrating open educational resources? So coming to our infrastructure readiness, we had to upgrade our servers because earlier when, say for example, IBS Gurgaon wanted to conduct a quiz or a formative assessment for 200 students, our servers didn't support. So we had to upgrade our servers for 7 IBS campuses and 300 faculty members, 600 plus students, and as I said, 100 as non-teaching staff. From SSD department and academic monitoring cell, we even involved our library staff for implementing our blended online learning. So we also had to procure Zoom Pro and Edu licenses. This year, we procured 200 Edu licenses. It enabled us to integrate this with our Moodle platform so that everyone, our Zoom administrators can schedule the meeting sessions from within the Moodle. It improved our student engagement. So I got the feedback from our campuses. Earlier students, they used to use their Zoom app, participate in the Zoom live sessions, and they rarely paid attention to the online activities and all. But because of this Zoom integration with our LMS, it improved our student engagement. And we also procured screencast-o-matic licenses because I trained our faculty members on how to self-record their lecture videos and publish on YouTube, and again, blend with our Moodle LMS. And we also subscribe to Moodle mobile app because for the first semester or new batch of students, majority of them could not procure laptops. So as an immediate solution, we subscribe to Moodle mobile app so that they use their Zoom mobile app for live sessions and use Moodle mobile app for submitting their activities. Coming to our faculty capacity building, last year I conducted 10-day faculty training program in synchronous mode and asynchronous mode. I blend generally for my training purpose, not only for at IBS, I blend both synchronous and asynchronous modes of training because through live sessions virtually, it could be a face-to-face or it could be now to virtual mode Zoom. And post live session, I always engage our faculty members on my training course. So I created MEBL, that is Moodle Enabled Blended Learning 2020 course last year. We also had training this year, and for that I created MEBL 2021 course. So the training was conducted in 3 cohorts because I have been using Zoom Pro license since November 2019 for conducting virtual training our faculty members, because our faculty members are at various IBS campuses, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Gurgaon, and Mumbai, Pune, etc. So for that license, only I could accommodate 100 faculty members, but our faculty members are 300 plus. That is the reason I had to conduct in 3 cohorts, and I engaged them in redesigning their courses, how to blend asynchronous learning, that is LMS enabled teaching and assessment, and synchronous learning, that is live session through Zoom, how to self-record their lectures and publish on YouTube, create question bank and administer quiz, evaluate concept-based and case analysis questions. IBS is primarily based on case-based teaching methodology, and how to create HYP interactive content to engage students or to enable students to interact with the content, and reuse and repurpose open educational resources, create assignments with rubrics, develop and facilitate Moodle enabled blended learning courses, and conducting live sessions through Zoom and using the breakout rooms for case analysis purpose. Initially, we tried out Big Blue Button because I generally promote open technologies, but Big Blue Button doesn't have a mobile app. So for the benefit of our students, again, we had to switch to Zoom licenses only. And coming to our non-teaching staff preparedness. So I even trained our Zoom admins. They include system administrators, as I said, our SSD staff and library staff. And I train our examination department staff on generating question papers with, we generate question papers with objective type questions and concept-based questions and case-led analysis. Student, those who are comfortable keying in their answers on Moodle platform, they could do, or we also enable the attachment. Some of the students, they write the answers, they scan and upload to the question, Moodle platform. So for that, I had to train our examinations department staff. And coming to the design part. So on the right side, you can see this course design template. Last year, I had created this template. And as I said, I have 2 courses, MEBL 2020 and 2021 training courses. I asked our faculty members to share their course introductory video and their session plan and course learning design and forum for sharing their Zoom session recording. So out of these 300 faculty members, we also have visiting faculty, especially in a city like Mumbai. 70 to 100 faculty members were visiting faculty. So out of these 300, 231 submitted their course introduction video, and 224 faculty members collaboratively designed their course. And coming to our academic delivery model. So as I said, it's a blend of asynchronous, synchronous, and again asynchronous. So faculty members prepare a session-wise plan, and during the 1-hour synchronous live interactive session, they're ready with their pre and post asynchronous learning activities. So pre-learning activities include, or reading include, preparatory learning or reading, or faculty embedded videos, their self-recorded videos, or discussion forum-based activities. During the live session activities, after every 50 minutes, faculty members were trained to use the LMS-based activities in order to break our students' monotony and to improve their engagement. For that, they generally use the choice module on Moodle, and some of them are interested in using the HYP part, interactive content, and some of them use quiz, and some of them use the forum for case analysis, and so on and so forth. And prior to concluding their live session, faculty members were instructed to take their students through the post-live engagement activities. Again, this is based on our LMS. And coming to the course design and development part. So in 20 days, how could we do, or how could our faculty members design and develop their course? So we engaged our faculty in collaborative course design and development for including preparatory session. Generally, every year we conduct 15 days of induction classes, or if we call preparatory. So we converted everything into online mode. And for semester 1 and semester 3 courses, from the master courses, we had taken the backup and restored across 7 IBS campuses. So again, I requested our master course developers to mentor the faculty members who will be reusing their course, because if they are not aware of the course design and how did they want to engage students, and how did they create activities and assessment and all, so they will be in a confusion state kind of thing. So our faculty members, when I invited them, they volunteered themselves, all the master course developers, and they conducted their mentoring sessions to all the IBS faculty members across 7 campuses, those who are going to reuse their courses. After this mentoring session only, we had taken the backup and restored for all the campuses. And coming to the student orientation, preparing students for this blended online learning mode is also important. So at 7 campuses, we have LMS coordinators. So they conducted a 1-hour session during our preparatory session or induction session. And this enabled the students what are the required hardware, to know more about the required software, hardware, and bandwidth, how to access and navigate through our LMS, or how to use the dashboard, how to access the course content, how to submit activities, assignments, quizzes, etc., and how to download and configure the Moodle mobile app in order to learn offline, and how to use the Zoom app. And fortunately, we have the e-learning ambassadors for this current batch. That is, the senior batch student volunteered themselves to provide needed support. Again, this I requested our LMS coordinators to identify students from the senior batch to provide needed support. In addition to that, we also have student FAQs. I generally create student FAQs and faculty FAQs whenever I receive a query. So I have been following this since 2012. And how did we address student technology access issues? As I said, majority, because students were from tier 2 cities or towns kind of thing. So how did we address? We encouraged them to use their mobile phone and download the Zoom app, and also use the Moodle mobile app that we subscribed for. And live session recordings were, or now also we may available all the live session recordings on our LMS courses. If at all students have connectivity issues for joining the live session, they'll be able to replay all these recordings. And how our faculty members or ACOs track student engagement. Faculty track student engagement. That is the beauty of Moodle platform. It allows us to track student engagement using activity completion reports and course participation reports. And I trained them on how to send alert messages to inactive students. And as I said, integrating Zoom with our Moodle platform improved student access to courses and engagement. This is the feedback I got from our campuses. And again, we had an issue of procuring and dispatching textbooks to students during the pandemic period. So again, our registrar requested all the faculty members collaboratively develop again lecture notes, and our department consolidated all the lecture notes we received, and these are made available through our learning management system. But while sharing that, then I realized it like only text based, or somewhere some images and graphics or tables kind of thing. Then I thought of this is again my initiative to introduce the Pressbooks platform. So I even felt a need for the customized textbooks or ebooks. And instead of simply converting all the lecture notes into ebooks. Why can't we integrate some interactive content using the OER videos and creating the H5P content? So this is again a new initiative. This year only we introduced this platform, and I trained the faculty members. Again, it's a collaborative interactive book design and development process, and they're collaborating on this. It's like it may take another 2 years to get all the 4 semester books completed and convert into an interactive mode as per our curriculum. And this is these are all the screenshots of my training slides. So we converted this text-based content into interactive. These all are H5P content, so that student can interact with content and self-assess. After reading some part of the book, they can self-assess or they self-check their knowledge, and immediately they'll get the feedback. So this is how we started converting our ebooks into, faculty lecture notes into ebooks. And here you can see this glossary. So student can interact with the textbook, and we added glossary of terms to the book. And again, this, as I said, I always promote using or repurposing OER. So this is another example. I made all my e-learning department staff to search for, I trained them and search for this OERs and suitable to our or appropriate to our ebooks, that is our faculty lecture notes. And what are various sources of multimedia and interactions? In 2012, we made an attempt to develop iBooks, that is using the Apple iAuthor platform, but it was like not compatible with any platform. Students had to purchase, or faculty members had to purchase iPads or iOS devices. But whereas coming to this Pressbooks platform, now it is cross-platform from any browser or any operating system, anyone can access. And these are various sources. From the Pressbook directory, I trained our faculty members to search for their content relevant H5P content, and H5P, this is eCampus Interview H5P Studio. And this is again another innovative way of converting NPTEL course videos and assignments. If you go to navigate to NPTEL courses, on NPTEL you have videos and assignments separate. How I trained our faculty members or our e-learning department staff on this is, so after every video we have an assignment. Click on the assignment, download and convert that into an MCQ on, and use the same video for converting into interactive video. So that is the reason I trained this.
Dr. Indra, can we wind up? We will have, thank you.
So these are all the, so this is the feedback I have taken from our faculty members. What was their learning, blended teaching learning experience? These are all the 2 slides. And what worked, open-mindedness of our staff and collective contribution. And that is the reason they could collaborate in collaborative course design and collaborative course development and collaborative iBooks development, and timely support by our department, e-learning department. We are like 24/7, including weekends, and continue professional development opportunities for faculty members, and above all, our higher ups and management support. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Indra. This was a good case study of your organization and what all new innovations you did it. Now we have Professor Amarendra Behera, as I said, Joint Director, CIT NCERT. Professor Behera.
Thank you very much, madam. Very good afternoon. Namaskar to all of you. And basically, I will be talking about our initiatives in COVID pandemic situation and how we learned from our experiences, and also tried to bridge the digital divide in a way. I think the presentation is clear to all of you.
It is
visible.
It is there. If you'd like to put it on your slideshow, then it will.
Yeah, is it on slideshow now? I think.
Yes, now it is on slideshow. Thank you.
So mainly I'll be talking on the digital education initiatives and learning through researches, how we have done that. If I talk about the institutional framework, the Central Institute of Educational Technology is a constituent unit of NCERT, and we work in the area of research, material development, digital and physical. In case of e-contents, a variety of wide range of e-contents are developed by CIET and CERT, and we directly or indirectly work with 1.5 million schools, 8.5 million teachers and 260 million students across the country. And if I talk about the directions from the government, there are clear-cut policy directions, and the recent NEP 2020 has given a lot of stress on equitable quality education and lifelong learning, and it has devoted 2 dedicated chapters on use and integration of technology, where it talks about using technology and integrating it for teaching, learning, assessment, even to provide in a way facilities to overcome the language barrier, because India is a diverse country linguistically as well, where 5 distinct language families coexist, and around 1700 languages are spoken and at oral level, and there are 22 8 scheduled languages also, which are important to develop resources on that. And besides that, the policy also directs for providing a resilient and a coherent system of education and making every child resilient. So therefore, I continue with both the presentations, and especially Professor Som Naidu mentioned about the resilient, making the education system resilient. And in COVID pandemic or epidemic or any kind of such disaster, so technology plays a greater role. I remember in 1999 during super cyclone, ham radio from Andhra Pradesh played a super special role in Odisha rescue operations. So similarly, a resilient and coherent system of education is key. And there is clear-cut policy direction for that. Even the policy talks about use of disruptive technologies. And if I talk about the initiatives which we were working, so it was very clear that we were working mainly with the 7 different initiatives. E-Pathshala is a major initiative of NCERT. National Repository of Open Educational Resources is another. It is a OER. And Diksha is again One Nation, One Platform under Prime Minister's eVidya program. And Nishtha is a national initiative for school heads and teachers' holistic advancement for scaling 85 lakh teachers, 8.5 million teachers per year. And Swayam also it uses the school and to higher education and technical education courses. And as far as schooling is concerned, NCERT and NIOS are a partner to roll out school courses. And also the institute had designed ICT curriculum, and also as a part of ICT curriculum, how students and teachers and other stakeholders can be trained, sensitized on meaningful use of ICT. That was also key. And last not least, recently in 2020, my Government of India announced Prime Minister's eVidya program. As a part of that, we had 1 class, 1 TV channel, and 12 DTH TV channels were started. And in the pandemic situation, reason being providing a resilient and coherent system of education was the key. Even NCERT conducted a rapid survey during the pandemic time and came to know that many students don't have smartphones. So in a way, radio and TV were the other ways as a coherent system, so that simultaneously the resources available on Diksha, E-Pathshala, NROER and Swayam are also available on television and radio channels. So in a way, keeping in view the digital facilities in the institute and the digital education facilities in our regional institutes of education, 5 regional institutes of education. So we started developing a large number of content, and we could develop more than 5,000 digital contents in a variety of ways. Even through the survey, we could know that the children, especially the HI hearing impaired, the children with special needs and the visually challenged children, they are double disadvantaged. So keeping in view that a large number of audio books and also sign language videos were developed. So till date, around 3,000 audio book chapters have been recorded as audio books, and it is provided through 230 radio stations across the country, including community radio and all India radio stations. And the whole country geography was mapped in such a way that every child in every nook and corner, whether it is Tawang to Leh, Ladakh, Jammu Kashmir, and even to Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So the whole landscape is covered through television and radio. Earlier, before the COVID pandemic situation, NCERT was running one 24/7 dedicated DTH TV channel. Since all the schools were closed and from nursery to K-12, so that is why one class, one DTH TV channel was started from 1st September. We took the challenge, and it was a 24/7 channel, so that the contents which are provided through Diksha portal are also telecast through radio and TV. And if I talk about the Diksha portal, again, the Diksha portal is having more than 4,703 digital books. And these books have been energized, as Madam Professor Indira was talking about the e-books. So NCERT digitized all its books, and also keeping in view the children with special needs, especially the visually challenged children. These books were developed as EPUBs. So EPUBs help the visually challenged children to use any third-party TTS, text-to-speech app, and the book reads the text for the visually challenged child. And similarly also, we have 2.27 million to 2,27 lakh e-content which are developed across the country, not only by NCERT, all the school boards and SCERTs in a time-bound manner, and it was put together on the portal to enable the students to access these contents in more than 33 languages, including sign language videos, so that the hearing impaired children are also not left behind, so they are taken together. And also keeping in view the pandemic situation, the online courses and its number were enhanced. And in not only NCERT, all the states and union territories, handholding was done, capacity building were done, and more than 5,000 online courses are taken care of. And so they are rolled out for the teachers, students, and all. And if we talk about the bandwidth and the users, so we were surprised to see that there was 23,000 concurrent users as one part of time is concerned. But today we could scale that portal and take the resources accordingly. Per day, 5 crore 50 million daily hits, page hits are there on these portals. So we had to, keeping in view the demand of the students, teachers, and the parents. So the resources were taken, digital resources, so that it addresses the concern of all stakeholders. I was mentioning about the coherent access. So the same content which is available on the portal app is available through radio and television as well. So the Diksha portal and app and the television and radio are integrated for coherent access or coherence in a way. And we had a challenge of continuous capacity building of 8.5 million teachers in a time-bound manner. So NCERT took the lead and developed a series of resources for the stakeholders. And as far as the resources are concerned, and the one flagship program popularly known as NISTA, National Initiative for School Heads and Teachers Holistic Advancement, was taken up. though it was taken up at the pre-COVID pandemic, and by that time we had a target of training 42 lakh teachers in 6 months to 8 months time. So the national organizations like NCERT, NUPA, NVA, Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, Central Board of Secondary Education, NIOS. So all the organization took lead and developed contents for holistic development of the teachers also. So we started the online course NISTA 1.0, and we had a target of 42 lakh teachers to be covered in 6 month time for the training, and there were 18 modules, 13 generic modules, 5 pedagogic modules, including 1 dedicated module on use and integration of technology by the elementary school level teachers. So from classes 1 to 8. So what we did, we first piloted with 500 teachers from Andhra Pradesh state, and we found that teachers are also having a lot of difficulty in accessing the resources both in synchronous and asynchronous mode. So what we did, a portal and app were developed, and also simultaneously the telecast were the coherent access point where the same session provided through the modules provided, video modules and the text modules provided through app and portal were provided through DD free dish. So, and also all private cable operators, including the Jio TV mobile app. So in a way, it could be possible for us to reach to every stakeholder, either through TV or through mobile app or through portal. So in a way, we could cover the 34 states and UTs across the country and 8 autonomous organizations under Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Tribal Affairs to cover this training. Keeping in view the success of this training, continuous capacity building of teachers, again the NISTA 2.0 has been launched by Honorable PM in the month of July, and NISTA 3.0 for the foundational literacy and numeracy, 3-year pre-primary and 5-year primary. Those teachers, almost 3 million teachers are there. So it has been taken up, and we are in the process of implementation, and keeping in view our experience with the teachers and the feedback through interactive voice response system, and also through emails and telephone calls. So these sessions were also taken live on DTH TV channels in the evening time when teachers are free, like 6 PM to 7:30 PM. So on regular basis, so that the these continuous capacity building modules are comprehended easily by the teachers. And for pass percentage also, there was a mandate that teachers have to score 70% mark minimum, otherwise they will not be issued certificates. So seriousness of the, and maximum 3 chances are given. So if they have just scrolled the text modules and scrolled the videos and not read properly or seen properly and attended the quiz properly, so they will not be issued certificates. So that way, quality control were also taken into consideration. Even the National Repository of Open Educational Resources, NROER, which is a free and open platform for disseminating content under Creative Commons license CC by SA, so were also used a lot. And nearly 20,000 e-contents are available as far as NCERT contents are provided. And similarly, also we had ePathshala mobile app where all the NCERT textbooks were digitized and provided in modalities. Particularly, we provided these modules in EPUB, flipbook, and also in PDF, so that all the different stakeholders, they can use these resources. The EPUB version specifically were developed keeping in view the challenges faced by the visually challenged children, so that these books can read for them, the machine can read for them, and that is why it was developed. And again, if I talk further, we branded ePathshala mobile app and one augmented reality app were developed because we found that the children are unable to comprehend the content which are there in the book given in the diagram form. Suppose a volcano picture is given, or a human cell, or animal cell,
You
or
may have to give some time for discussion.
Okay, I'll take 2 more minutes to cover and get back. Thank you, sir. So that is why augmented reality app was developed, and especially for science and maths books, 9th, 10th science books. So these were done. And I will not touch upon SWAYAM because all of us we know. And there are 35 plus courses NCERT is running. Similarly, we have one ICT course for the whole country teachers and students. We piloted with 13,000 teachers from Karnataka to see the efficacy of the ICT curriculum for the stakeholders, and before it is rolled out across the country, which is now being rolled out across the country. And also, since cyber safety and security was a concern, so a lot of resources in collaboration with UNESCO and UNICEF were developed and disseminated to keep children and teachers safe on cyber world. Even we helped Mauritius to develop a mobile app for the Mauritius. Though portal was already developed, the mobile app was developed and handed over to them to be used by the students across the country, and also to sensitize our students since they were at home, and the teachers on cyber safety, security, even rich cultural heritage. We had a collaboration with Israel with some of our lab schools of NCERT to take them further. Even the Pragyata guideline for digital education, starting from digital education processes, including ergonomics and screen time, was also discussed. A large number of quizzes were started so that children are busy in attending to their curriculum and also sensitized on cyber safety, security, and other concerns related to the area. Even based on our experience from the rapid survey, we found that a large number of children, they have difficulty and have poor mental and physical health. So that is why a counseling service through 300 plus counselors through interactive voice response system were started. And if I take you through, so there are a couple of other areas where we are thinking that researches are possible, e-content development and bringing the new generation of e-content, especially the virtual labs and all. That is why, and also children with special needs are a major concern. So we have one collaboration now happening with Korean counterparts to take this further and help the children with special needs. I end by saying that there are many challenges and opportunities as far as digital education is concerned. But in case of India, we have the challenge of scale, diversity, and equity and quality to be achieved together. This is also the policy goal. So let us join together and make a difference and help all stakeholders to come up to a comparable quality of education and also attain the sustainable goal for in a better way. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity for sharing our experiences.
Thank you so much, Dr. Professor Behera. This was very interesting. And as I was telling in the beginning, that the digital initiatives of Government of India done by institutes, organizations like CIT, NCERT, and CARET with you and the whole team, very interesting. And these were the innovations. Now we are open for discussion for another 5 minutes, and then maybe we will be able to wind up. Now, any questions you want to ask, you can unmute your mic and ask the question from all our 3 panelists. Any questions? There was one question, but I don't know. This is a very common one, and whether Som or Indra or Professor Behera would be answering or should be answering. Why distance learning and online learning is still not being equally recognized by the industry. during the recruitment. But a straight question to Som is that, and I'll repeat, Imran Tahir has said that, what do you mean by unbundled forms? So that's what in the chat it's saying.
Yes, Mr. Som had already answered that on a personal message, so I got that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Right.
But
Okay.
if it is possible, can you, sir, please tell that again? Because I had the same concern. Yep.
Go ahead. You, my friend, you might be able to explain it better than I could.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, nowadays it is age of technology. Even recently, also based on the NEP 2020, Government of India has prepared one policy called Indira, National Digital Education Architecture. So for whole education, it talks about unbundled all activities and the resources and interoperable. Also, why unbundled? Because many times, like Madam Indira also talked about few learning management systems. Even in my institute, I use 4 or 5 learning management systems. But while talking about the scale in Indian level, 8.5 million teachers and 260 million students bringing it together, I cannot have parallel all LMSs. So being at the institutional level, we need to know that those needs to be integrated and provided in an interoperable manner, so that we make use of those resources in a better manner. Otherwise, there will be parallel structures. So like when we started using the Moodle, so we could not scale it beyond 500 learners. Even if level based we tried, but the architecture had to be changed and many things. So then that is why we shifted to Diksha. And again, many other stakeholders, they say you take this learning management system, but they should agree that it should be unbundled and put together as an integrated service rather than a parallel service. No doubt economy models could follow, but still some resources should be provided as force resources, so that like even Open edX also, they have proprietary as well as open. So we need not to bundle everything and say that this is the way it will run. Rather, it should be provided in an unbundled manner, so that any tweaking, pulling, pushing resources, making own collections possible. Another small example I will give. We had 18 modules for 4.2 million teachers to be dealt in 6-month time. We translated in 3 languages, English, Hindi, and Urdu we provided. States helped us. It was unbundled and they can make their own collection. They can make their own LMS, those resources they can take. They did not to inform us because we shared that under CCYSA license. And Diksha was a junction where 42 websites are put together. So once I put on my website, so any state are free to make their own collection, pull the resources from there. So it was unbundled. That is why they could pull it. If it would have been bundled and logged together, and they would have taken my permission, it would have taken months together for Kerala to take our permission and run the course. So because so many formalities happen. So that since we shared that as free and open source resources, and it was provided as unbundled resources, so it was easy for them to make their own collection, make their own learning management system, run their own courses. I think to some extent I addressed.
I think you did. I think if you think about the music industry, that's the best way to explain it. There was a time if you wanted the song, you had to buy the album, right? You remember that? Whether it was a CD or a long play record, you had to buy the whole record, even if you wanted one song. But then came iTunes, you could buy one song if you wanted, right? Just download one song and you pay for one song. Education organizations, especially universities, are not very good at selling their products. They are very archaic, they're very traditional and conventional in the way, and very protective about the way they bundle their packages. This is the BSc, this is the way it's got to put together. The 21 courses, you want a BSc, you've got to take 21 courses. But many people say, listen, I don't want all 25 courses. I want these 5 courses. Can I take these 5 courses? Can I get a credit from you? Will you give me a credit with your seal, with your signature? Universities say, oh, no, can't do that. You know, that's not the way you operate. And I think from what I'm hearing, I mean, I haven't been lately to India, but I've been to India many times before. I'm excited to hear the presentations because there's so much is happening there. I think India is really leading, and the educational sector is really leading the world from what I've heard. And I think we need to congratulate people like Professor Mukhopadhyay for bringing this to the forefront. And I'm hoping that these recordings are going to be made available to people on a continuing basis so we can listen to these. So thank you very much. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, there was some question related to maths lab. Other than
Professor
OLAB,
Behera?
actually, Madam Ankita Rajput has raised that.
I think there is some issue.
Can I answer?
Go ahead, Professor Behera.
Please.
Actually, our RI Ajmer, we have developed one mobile app and resources also as math lab, digital lab, part of digital lab activity. And besides that, GeoGebra is also a storehouse of mathematics resources. So that can be used other than the OLAB. Certainly on OLAB, there are 173 OLAB activities by Amrita and SIDAC. So there are other resources also. Metica is again another resource. It is developed by some Israeli organization, but it is also very good for maths learning. Metica. So we are going to pilot in few schools as far as the Metica is concerned. Thank you.
I have 2 questions for Professor Amarendra Behera. One is these 2 questions are from our foundation side, not from ICHBL Business School. How can our foundation collaborate with you in training the teachers in ICT?
There is an issue in the audio, maybe the bandwidth.
Am I not audible?
Yeah, I can clearly listen, Professor Indra.
Ah, okay.
The voice is breaking, maybe because it is past 1:15.
2 minutes over.
Okay.
Because it is 2 minutes past the time, so voice is breaking automatically by technological devices.
That is the good thing.
The first question is, how can our foundation or any NGO can collaborate with you in training the teachers? Especially, we are interested in Andhra Pradesh. We are based out of Andhra Pradesh. That is the first question to Professor Amarendra Behera. And my second question to you is, how can we train the SIET, State Institute of Educational Technology, Andhra Pradesh staff, so that they can become the master trainers in this area? These 2 questions are to you, Professor Amarendra.
Okay, friends.
Thank you very much. We have a standard process
Friends,
of signing MOU.
this should be the last question
So,
because there are 2.
If any, can I answer, madam?
Kindly, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Actually, there are standard MOUs we have. I can share with you. So any specific collaboration, even we can organize a hackathon for developing AR, VR virtual lab contents also for school children and for skill sector and for teacher training as well. I will share that MOU. So as a part of the joint MOU, we can go ahead. And in Andhra Pradesh, we are continuously in collaboration with the SIET, including the Vijayawada SIET, also Telangana. And because we have annual activities with them. So certainly we'll introduce your organization and jointly we can plan some activities for their strengthening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Just one statement, since Som is also here, who is very familiar. If you look at OECD, UNESCO, COL, they always talk of outcomes. They don't stop at output. At the moment, most of the time, we are talking of the outputs. I mean, if you look at Behera's statement, Indira's statement, there's a lot of output. I think we need to get into serious research on outcomes. Otherwise, My village school has no impact at all. They are exactly the same which I was teaching in 1964. That's my only statement, that this conference can lead to a global research on impact or outcome of technology intervention and not only output of technology intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Prof. I mean, I like to take people back to the last slide that I presented, and I'm sure you would want to use that, and feel free to use that, because in that slide, I tried to provide a framework for research. So if people are looking for topics to do research, what kinds of questions to ask, go to that slide and try to answer and address your questions on the 8 dimensions of flexibility, because flexibility gives you the opportunity to become resilient. If you're not flexible, then you can't be resilient, because you're very singularly focused, and you're very focused on one approach and one methodology or one mode. But if you are flexible, then you're robust, and then you are more available to a variety of situations. What we want researchers to focus on are focusing on those dimensions, on how, for example, technology can be used to improve learner-learner interaction, or learner interaction with the content. I was following Indira's presentation very closely, because I thought Indira answered a lot of questions that I was asking for, how her organization is addressing the issue of learner content interaction, and learner teacher interaction, and learner interaction, and learner interaction with the organization. If we are not optimizing these opportunities, then we are not resilient. And I'm urging researchers to focus on those kinds of issues. That's the kind of research that is required.
Thank you so much. My last two, three statements, and then I'll request Professor Malhotra to join. Like all of us, we must read this UNESCO's report, Futures of Education 2050. It has a complete chapter on research and innovations for futures of education. Very interesting points which it has described. I just want to highlight one point, that is the report, the chapter calls for a generalized worldwide collective research agenda on future of education, and especially when there are so many disruptive technologies. For me, what the research and innovation in technology-enabled learning is, research, I think, is a process. And innovation is a product, and what Professor Behera, Government of India, they have done, these are all innovations, and then certain platforms, online courses, and so on and so forth, which Indra also did it. Professor Som gave a very, very important 8 points, and these are the research areas. These are the research areas which have been described and very relevant to conduct. I, in the end, thank each one of you for some of the very great points made today. Thank you for speaking on this online conference, and to all the attendees. Professor Malhotra.
Oh, yes. There should be somebody to thank the person who is thanking others. So that's why I have intervened, friends. So on behalf of ETMA, as well as on behalf of everybody here, I thank the panelists, Dr. Som Naidu and Dr. Indra Koneru and Professor Amarendra Behera. Everybody was interested in Professor Behera's NCRT part and all those things. Thank you, Professor Behera. But one lesson is learned, as Professor Mukhopadhyay has wonderfully said, that there is a need to have global research on the outcomes. That is what is there, what he said. Really, it is a lesson for these panelists. So I'm thankful to our chairperson, Professor Madhu Parhar. In LTC organized it wonderfully well. Thanks, Professor Parhar, because time is less, so I will say only thank you.
Okay, yeah, we will come back, join again at 2 o'clock for the paper presentations. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Namaskar.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, Som. I look forward to next opportunity to meet you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Thank you, sir.